Good evening, welcome to another Focus on Friday, and tonight we focus on Baron Franz Nopcsa von Felső-Szilvás. And again, pardon my pronunciation. The Baron, who was born May 3rd of 1877, was a Hungarian aristocrat, an adventurer, scholar, geologist, paleontologist, and albanologist, as in a studier of the country of Albania. He's widely regarded as one of the founders of paleobiology and first described the theory of insular dwarfism. He was also a specialist in Albanian studies and was the first to complete a geological map of northern Albania. He was born in what today is Transylvania, and he was a Romanian noble, although that wouldn't last terribly long. He had a fascination with fossils. He and his sister had found some on the family estate, and that kind of sparked his interest in it. And he started studying specifically geology at the University of Vienna in 1897, and then went on to get his first PhD in 1903 at the same university, and began focusing on geologically mapping the area around his estate. In 1906, he found who would be his lifelong friend and secretary, that they did everything together, the then 18-year-old Bajid Elmaz Doda, who was picked up in Bucharest at the time. Of him, he would say that he was the only person who he had truly loved me, whom I had full confidence, never doubting for a moment that he would misuse my trust. And they would live their life together, and we'll get to why that is in a bit. In addition to being fascinated with fossils and Albania, which was under Ottoman control at the time, he was one of the few outsiders who traveled into the area, learned their dialects and customs, and began being on the good side of the Albanian nationalist resistance who fought against the Turks in the empire at the time. And that would be very critical for him, as later on he would become a spy and a smuggler. In 1907, he led expeditions through there and was held hostage by the bandit Mustafa Lida, who, along with his secretary, and would eventually be freed by his father, who brought in a military, 10 armed retainers, if you would call that a military, and he was let go. And then in 1912, when the Balkan states joined forces to drive out the Turks, he ended up becoming a spy for Austria-Hungary. And he did this twice. Both times he would do it to promote Albanian nationality and try to get them situated on the world stage. He is the first person in history to have hijacked an aircraft. He did that as part of his spy work. And unfortunately, he was doing it for the Hungarian Soviet Republic, which didn't work out too well for him, but can't take that back, so there you go. And then he would end up being, post-war, the head of the Hungarian Geological Institute. However, that was too sedentary a job, so he and his secretary decided to motorcycle across Europe, specifically to locate and study fossils, which worked very well for him. He would eventually sell off his entire collection to the Natural History Museum in London, and part of that was because he started struggling from a variety of illnesses, including debilitating ones that would leave him at times bound in a wheelchair, and he would lecture from the wheelchair, which was in a time when such a thing as ADA, disability rights, wasn't a thing, so it was kind of frowned on during that time. Eventually, however, he became so depressed over his illnesses that he committed what we would call today a murder-suicide. He shot his partner and then shot himself, leaving a note that only said, "The reason why I shot my longtime friend and secretary in his sleep without his suspecting it all is that I do not wish to leave him behind sick, in misery, and without a penny, because he would have suffered for too much." Kind of dark. But in his lifetime, he would go on to be called the father of paleontology because of his work in doing so. Paleobiology specifically, because he was the first person to take the fossils and apply flesh to them. He would say, "Hey, this looks like it should have been done in this manner because there were scales on this part of the body, therefore they would have reacted in this way." And he was the first to successfully hypothesize that birds were the direct descendants of dinosaurs. So that was a real big thing at the time, which nobody connected the two. And as I said before, he had pioneered the concept of what is called insular dwarfism, which basically says in a given population, if you remove resources enough, things shrink to meet their resources, which was considered controversial at its time, but has been proven scientifically ever since. So, and then on top of that, half of what is in the museums in Albania, as far as cartography and culture and history, he all preserved and was kept forward from that day until now. So he's recognized as kind of the father of Albanian history and culture and the father of paleobiology. And that is Baron Franz. Y'all have a good one.